Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm going to be talking about A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, beloved fantasy writer of many teens and adults. This book was published 2015. I think this book is pretty decent. That's kind of the end of my spoiler-free review. So if you haven't read the book, stop watching now. Go read it based off of a pretty good review. The book was pretty decent. Then come back and watch the rest of the video. So, the core plot of A Darker Shade of Magic is probably one of the most common in all of fantasy, sci-fi, superhero movies, books, TV shows, etc. Especially if we become a little reductionist. And that plot is get otherworldly doodad to this place in the other world. The turns and road markers of the journey that the two main characters, Lila and Kel, take is not avant-garde either. The obstacles, enemies, unknown is standard. Nothing is a crazy surprise, really. But I think the way Schwab solves those obstacles and gets rid of those enemies is what is special about the book. I think often in fantasy and sci-fi, characters are battling enormous forces and armies, or maybe they require a one-of-one rare object guarded by the strictest of fortresses. The characters spend the entirety of the novel recruiting compatriots, which is a bit of a proven formula, as shown by, Oceans 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever. They might spend the novel getting the fortress blueprint and the guard dog sedatives and 2 keys and the eyeball of a blind man and a newt and 3 special characters so they can, enter the fort, But Schwab's approach is a bit refreshing because Lila needs, a rook, a chess piece, for example. And the owner of the chess piece is killed, and she picks it up. And that's kind of, that problem solved. Kel has an extremely powerful magic item as with the stones combined together. And because of that, he sees through Astrid's illusion magic and kills her easily. That problem is solved. Lila needs an invitation. She steals it. This quick setup of something blocking the path and then being solved is much faster than in a lot of other stories, especially stories in genre fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, mystery even. In my opinion, this is a good thing. I think Schwab does this almost perfectly. In some cases, like the invitation part I just mentioned, the setup and the payoff or the solution is too fast to be an actual problem. It doesn't feel like it's stopping our character at all. It's insubstantial, and it kind of feels like filler, even though it's a natural issue to pop up. And something that's not filler, that seems like filler, is probably a sin in writing, because it feels like it doesn't need to be there, but it is. So then it's really your writing that's making it seem that way. The space that this really fast problem-solving style opens up means there are more problems to be handed out. There are 2 fights with a large antagonist, being Holland, and he returns in several different ways. To Lila, kind of when they're hiding under this Harry Potter invisible spell or something. So that space that opens up is well used. And I'm impressed by Schwab's ability for nearly every solution to be grounded in her world. Every time I kind of nod my head after the problem is solved, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. There is one exception from me, and that is using Holland's still breathing body to transport the stone to Black London. I think that particular solution kind of reeks of convenience it's a little too easy to flip like a life or death scenario in or banishment scenario in this case. But I think it deserves a pass because it's likely kind of a setup for the sequel. I think that issue is still ongoing. In my opinion, I haven't read the sequel, so I don't know, but it feels like maybe the stone is empowered by going back to its rightful place. Maybe Holland comes back to life corrupted by the magic in Black London. So that is a possible scenario. Speaking of a sequel, I really, really hope that Kel and Lila do not form any romance. I know they share a kiss in this book, but I wouldn't say they're romantic by the end of it. Usually, generic boy-girl romances as B-plots of genre fiction is done really poorly and only serves two annoying purposes, and that is, one, to be used as fan service because everybody likes it when the movie comes and, you know, then you see the romance or whatever. And then two, to create motivation when one of their potential love interest is maimed or captured or killed. And I think that's kind of a cop-out for creating realistic characters with actual motivations. I think the only thing that I would say about the sequels that I hope for, besides the romance not being there, is I hope the Stacked Londons are played with a little bit more. Tracking someone in a different London, maybe trespassing or bypassing security by going back and forth between Londons. You know, there's a fortress in this one, there's not in there, so then you travel back and forth in order to get inside. I think that's pretty interesting. It's used in video games very creatively, this concept of there's several worlds being stacked, and you have a consistent location between each of the worlds. So I've experienced it in video games, and I'd really like to see it used a little bit more in the sequels of this book. Overall, I enjoyed the book. I think the main beats were a little predictable, and I'm worried about how some stuff will develop in the sequels, but I'm still going to read them. I think I'm going to rate this book a 6.8. Thanks for watching. Please like if you liked it. Consider subscribing. And leave any comments below talking about this book or any other book. Thanks.